Losing a child is devastating for a parent, and to know your child was alone when he died just adds another layer of pain.
Wendy Willis says there's not a day that passes that she doesn't think of her youngest child, Dalton. But all she has now are memories. Katie Jeffries continues her Unsolved series tonight, focusing on local cold cases.
Wendy Willis says she will never understand how someone could leave her son to die, alone on the side of the road. Dalton Kuhn was just 16 years old when he was hit and killed along the 312 bridge in St. Augustine. The family says they will never give up fighting as long as it takes. It's been 6 years, but Wendy Willis often finds herself back at this bridge, the place her son took his last breath.
And I think the hardest part is someone killing your child and having no accountability.
It was October 10th, 2016. Willis says around 5:30 that night, she got a call from Dalton asking her to pick him up from the skate park on St. Augustine Beach. But she was at work and unhappy to find out he would have to cross the 312 bridge.
I told him, get back across that bridge.
After she got off work, she told Dalton she would meet him at the Carrabba's.
And Dalton texted me at 7:20. He said, Mom, where you at? So I'm thinking he's right there.
But he never arrived. Minutes became hours, and Willis says she thought he had gone to a friend's house nearby. But by the next morning, she started to feel frantic that she couldn't reach him. And that's when a friend called to tell her they had seen a report about a pedestrian struck on the news.
And I said, Heather, was this a fatality? And she said, yes, ma'am. Then the air comes out of you.
Dalton was dead, left on the side of the road in the grass for 12 hours until he was spotted by a bicyclist the next morning, the victim of a hit and run.
The hardest thing for me is that my son didn't die instant. Would he probably have lived? The medical examiner said no. But I could have been there, or they could have been there, and they could have held him. They could have held him so he wasn't alone.
It is believed Dalton was struck by a silver Chevy or GMC truck 2003 to 2007 model. This photo is not the exact truck, but an example released by the St. Augustine Police Department in 2016. The truck would have had a missing passenger side mirror and damage to the right side. Wendy says she knows people out there have information. The 312 bridge was the only bridge open in the area after Hurricane Matthew, meaning there was more traffic using it. And in a tight community, people talk.
Someone they knew came home with a missing mirror, with damage to their truck, and you've seen it all over the news. We stood out there every day. You can't tell me no one knows nothing.
As she waits for answers, she finds herself going through old pictures, heartbroken that there will never be any new ones. Dalton was the youngest of 4, a fan of the Jaguars. He loved sports, first baseball, then skateboarding. He was beloved by his sisters and nephew. Now across from those pictures sits his ashes. For Wendy, justice isn't a long jail sentence. It's making the person that struck Dalton take responsibility and become a voice for education.
I wanted them on the day they killed my son to go to an AA class or a high school. And if we could educate people and they could hear this story and hear why somebody did what they did and their regrets, then maybe in the future, 20 years, one of these kids that were in the audience would not do the same thing.
And instead of leaving, call for help. So no parent has to live with the knowledge their child died alone.
I wasn't there to tell him I love him, and it's gonna be okay. That's what not calling for help does to a family.
If you know anything about the hit and run that killed Dalton Kuhn, please contact the St. Augustine Police Department or Crime Stoppers. Katie Jeffries, First Coast News, on your side.